back to another episode of That Tribute Band Show. I am your host, Eddie Payne, and today we are sitting down with the Social Distortion Tribute, Social Destruction, and I have with me here Dan from the band Social Destruction. How you doing, Dan?
How you doing? Good.
So, where exactly are you guys from?
That's a very interesting question. I live in the middle of cow country, in Heartland, Vermont, which is nowhere near anything. And our bass player lives in New Hampshire. Our other guitar player, one of them lives in Vermont, an hour north of me. And then our drummer lives in Wilmington, Delaware. So we are kind of spread out. And yeah, we play between Portland, Maine and Wilmington, Delaware because of that. It's not necessarily a bad thing.
Right on. So how long have you guys been doing this tribute?
Well, the tribute was kind of a little bit of an accident, sort of, because I had a band for 10 years called the Road Trash Band. But the whole time, Social D was a huge, probably one of the biggest influences for that band. That's why I'm a drummer of 33 years, and I decided that I wanted to front a band. So I took on starting Road Trash, and then we said, we were going to do some country-ish covers, but with a real rock and roll flair, punk edge kind of. And it just evolved from that. And the more we said, let's learn 4 or 5 Social D songs and throw those in our sets, just because that's kind of where we were headed. And it just, eventually I just took a real love to playing that stuff. And it resonates with me the most out of anything, really. They're a funny band because they're not difficult, but they have a swagger to them. And it's basically electrified folk songs, really, in old, like Chuck Berry, early rock and roll licks, Rolling Stones. It's all of that stuff all mixed into one, just amped up a couple of notches,
Right.
It's a good time.
So other than Social Distortion, what are some of your other influences?
For me personally, I have a lot of very same influences Mike Ness had, really. I mean, 3 years old, Creedence Clearwater Revival. I was listening to that on my parents' turntable. I was scratching the shit out of that record when I was like 3. I'd put it on because it had it was a double LP, and it opened up, and there was like a really famous shot of them, like a whole live shot of them playing. And I would just like stare at that forever and just get lost in it. And I love CCR and Lynyrd Skynyrd, really. That's a huge one for me as well. Artemis Pyle, his drumming was just another. He made, that 70 Lynyrd Skynyrd from like 75 to 77 was just, that was a crazy band. I mean, they deserve. I know that everybody says Freebird, but they wrote so many other amazing songs that never got any radio play and barely any recognition. And of course, I'm a huge Zeppelin fan, Bonham, but everybody loves Bonham. And, but I really, Black Sabbath, that changed my life at 13. And Bill Ward, he's one of the greatest jazz drummers that there is. And Tony Iommi, that's the first time a friend of mine taught me Iron Man on guitar at, I was age like 13, and he just taught me the brrr, on the guitar.
Right.
And it was all over from there.
Yeah, I feel Bill Ward is one of those drummers that gets overlooked and doesn't get as much credit as he needs, because I mean,
he's the man.
Going back, I mean, he started all that stuff.
Bonham had great bass drum work. He could do those triplet, bass drum things and all that stuff. But Bill Ward did some really neat snare work and some jazzy licks on all their stuff. I mean, Rat Salad is like crazy good.
So you had mentioned that you guys go up to Maine. How far south do you guys travel for gigs?
We have made it basically Wilmington is as far as we have made it so far, because our drummer lives down there. There was a place when we Bar 13 it's called, and it's kind of a rough little club, but it was a cool place. And we played there, and we played a place in Clifton, New Jersey, Dingbats. That's a real kind of famous rock club. And we play a lot like New Jersey, Union Firehouse. We played a really cool tribute festival called Monster of Tributes in Frenchtown, New Jersey, at this cool restaurant bar club called Artie's in Frenchtown. And they have a backyard area, and they have one of those tractor trailer truck stages that folds out.
Right.
And we did I think there was 7 or 8 tributes on that played. It was about a month ago. And that was really cool. We played 3rd out of 8, I believe. And there were some great tributes. There was our drummer's girlfriend. She fronts a excellent Alanis Morissette tribute. And her band played. That was the first time I got to see them. I know she's been talking about it for a year and a half, 2 years, about doing something, and she would come to shows, but I didn't know really she sang, and she got up there and blew my socks off. We were all extremely impressed.
Is this Jagged Little Thrill that you're talking about?
Yep,
okay.
It is. Yeah.
I've seen them online. I've been been in the process of getting to them on the show as well.
Dude, I'll hook you up. Yeah, no problem. I'll tell her because yeah, they are awesome. And there was a band that really blew me away. I don't listen to a lot of metal. I'm not really a metal guy. I'm a classic rock guy, really, when you break it down. But I saw a Iron Maiden tribute that headlined that festival called Ancient Mariners out of New Jersey. And those guys just totally blew me away. They were excellent. The singer could easily replace Bruce Dickinson. And I'm not kidding when I say that. Those guys were top notch. And the guy who put the festival on, Joe Amabile, I believe is his last name. He fronted a Judas Priest tribute. Their name escapes me, which is awful. But those guys were. I'm glad we played 3rd, really, because it was pretty cool to see those guys. As the sun goes down, it gets dark. You have stage lights and things at night.
Right.
Not that it wouldn't have been fun, but those guys put on such a crazy, epic show. Both of those bands. That was great. It was a great day all around.
Yeah, we actually have a Judas Priest tribute locally here in Virginia, and up DC way we have Eyes of the Nile, which they're an Iron Maiden tribute. One of my tribute bands has actually played with them locally. They are really good. They don't look anything like the original band, but they've got the sound dead on.
That's awesome. Oops, dropping things.
Have you guys ever met anyone from the band or had any feedback from the band, good or bad, or have you ever had anybody contact you about a cease and desist?
I have met everyone in the band. I saw the my bass player, Seth, and we have both met all of those guys. And I actually have something here. 1 second. I actually have from the concert that I met them. I met this fella right here, Johnny Two Bags, the guitar player, not Mike Ness, but Johnny Two Bags. He actually showed up in the crowd. This is Brent, the bass player. This guy right here. And Mike has signed a bunch of things. I actually got a set list from one concert, and that's another set list from another concert. And yes,
awesome.
To shortly. But they were, it was kind of one of those, it was after the show out by the tour bus. And those guys were all just super cool, honest, real humans. And it was super cool when Johnny Two Bags walked out in the crowd, because after the show, he just came walking out like he was walking. I don't even know where he was going. He was just kind of walking through the crowd. And I said, Johnny Two Bags. And I was like the only person who acknowledged him. And I sat there and shot the shit with him for at least 10 minutes and just talking about stuff. Like these are all normal guys. There was like no ego, no nothing. It was awesome. And we have not gotten a cease and desist letter, which I'm very happy about, but it wouldn't surprise me one day if we do, not to sound arrogant or anything, but our show is, I think that it is as close as you can get to seeing them. If you were to go see them live right now, this is what you will get. But we play a lot of songs that they don't do live anymore.
Right.
Especially off like the heavy hitting, like the White Light, White Heat, White Trash album, which to me was their best ever. That's one of those albums you click play and just let it go to the end.
Right.
I just keep it in my van all the time, and it's just on repeat. I pick up wherever I leave off, and it's just one of those that resonates with me really well. But yeah, so I hope that answers your
I think with this day and age, their bands probably aren't going to come after you. I mean, with social media taking off like it's taken off in the last 15 years or so, I think communication with actual bands has become more frequent with the fan base. And they're very appreciative of everything, it seems like. And by them not saying something or not knowing is probably a good thing too.
Well, to add to that, Chris Reese, who was the drummer for Social Distortion from like 81 or 83 to 93, he was on the he did Story of My Life and Ball and Chain, Ring of Fire. He helped put them really on the big map. And he owns a restaurant bar in I think it's Long Beach, Orange County, California, and he has responded to several of our videos, and I have talked to him on a few different occasions through Facebook Messenger. And he's just the coolest guy. He thinks that we're absolutely the real deal, and that's coming from the original drummer. So I think I'm hoping we're on the right path.
Well, I know I've checked out several of your videos online, and you guys you're the real deal. It's a good segue to my next question. How well received are you guys with the Social D fans and also the venues?
This is a very double-edged sword doing this tribute, because the Social D fans, the real fans, are extremely hardcore, very devoted to Social D. And if you come across as kooky, they have no problem letting you know.
Right.
And so far, I only ever had one complaint from one person. And I remember this very clearly because it's only been one guy. And all he wrote under one of our videos was lame. And I actually messaged him and I said, I'm just curious why you feel that way. And his response was, it's very obvious that you guys are all capable of doing so much better than this, and therefore I think you're lame. And my reply was, I do this because for me, it's 1,000,000% fun.
Right.
And that's what really counts. If you're not having fun playing music, don't do it, because people see what if it's just a paycheck, then you shouldn't be doing it, because people can tell if your heart's in it or not. And we do try to give it 150% every show, at least.
I've seen a lot of bands out there, and yeah, I agree with you. If you're not having fun, don't do it, because I've seen some guys, they'll be up on stage and they'll just be like standing completely brick still playing their guitar, or even holding the microphone. And some bands, if they're paying tribute to them, I understand that might be one of their things that they do. But if you're just like, even just general cover bands, if you're not moving around, or if you're just like looking around and you can tell by looking on somebody's face, oh man, I just would rather be at home watching TV or drinking a beer or something. It's like, well, if that's what you want to do, go. Yeah,
or you look over and the guy's like got his phone out in between songs, and he's like, this. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Get out of here. Go.
Your job is to be there to entertain and put on a show. If you're not doing that, you need to find another profession.
We are just entertainers. That's all any of us are.
Right.
But when you really break it down.
Have you guys ever sold out a venue?
No. That I hear that question a lot with a lot of interviewers, and my rebuttal is, the more interesting thing I find, what is the worst, shittiest venue that you have played? Because those make such greater stories.
Right.
For example, we played this little tiny place. It was in Pennsylvania. It was like a month ago. It was the day before that big tribute fest. That was why we went there mainly. It was for the tribute festival on Saturday afternoon, but we had Friday night to kill. So our drummer said, hey, I know this shit dive bar. It's a gig. Who knows what'll happen? And we get there, you can smell the bathroom from outside. And it's kind of like the old CBGBs. They say, it's a good bar if you can smell the pisser from outside. Well, we walked in and it was just the most deplorable, like, zero fucks given. The guy just didn't seem to care about the place that I was like falling in, just gross. And he goes, oh, I have a PA system and I have a house drum kit. You guys just bring your amps and your guitars and it'll be fine. We'll be all good. So we show up, and this is not my first rodeo. We are usually very prepared for all situations because you just never know. And he had this battered drum set that was like, had a broken bass drum leg. The thing was like, kind of wonky and just scratched all up, and just looked like it hadn't had new heads on it in probably 5 years. And one side of his PA speaker he had a blown PA speaker. He had like a mic stand for the guy the stage was so small. The mic stand was like bolted to the wall. It was like one of those, it was like a pull out, like a studio setup. It was ultra ghetto. And people stayed. There was a Clash tribute that we played with And, it was a tiny place. So there was like maybe 30 people there. And then when we got up to play, there was like 2 or 4. I don't know. It was a very minuscule amount. The guy walked up the end of the night, handed us $40. He's like, that's all I could get people to pay. So I was like, okay. So yeah, we have had some really good exposure. There's a venue that we really enjoy playing at our home. It's in Burlington, Vermont, which is like an hour and a half north of me. And that's about the only town or city that people know of around the country. But there's a venue there called Higher Ground. And that's a really great, great place. And we did a fun night with another tribute, a Sex Pistols tribute, who we've become friends with, called Bollocks.
Awesome.
They're out of Philly, and those guys are a rowdy bunch. They're definitely very authentic. They may fight with each other even on stage like the Sex Pistols used to, because we witnessed a drunken debacle.
Do they throw beer bottles at each other on stage?
Not beer bottles, but there were fists, multiple fists, and 2 angry individuals. And they ended up actually, they got booted at the end of the night by the venue because they caused such a scene with about 4 songs left of their set. We went on after, but I had to go up and deal with security and management and the band and all of that stuff. I put the show together, and management, security fully understood that I had nothing to do with that situation, but it still felt not good for me. And but I guess they patched things up and they're all good. And luckily, when it went down, the singer was basically off to the left side of the stage next to the bass player, and he's a hell of a good showman. And I think he had a little whiskey, and he was doing this whirlwind singing thing, and he spun around and he caught the bass player right in the mouth with the microphone, like hard, right in the teeth. And in the same motion, he spun around and caught him again in the face with the mic stand. So it was like a double tap.
Ouch.
And that guy got super pissed and just boom, right to the singer. And it was kind of comical, but there was some a couple upset individuals for a few minutes, but it's all good. I mean, like I said, they were 100% authentic. So we're still good friends with them, and we have gigs coming up with them, and I really look forward to playing with them, because it is you just don't know. I love that.
Yeah. A lot of tribute bands. There are a lot of tribute bands out there. Have you ever encountered any instances where you're trying to book a club or a gig or something somewhere, and the venue says, no, we can't book you guys because we already deal with another Social D tribute? Have you ever come across anything like that?
I have not come across that, but what I have come across is just a lot of reaching out to venues in just crickets. No response, nothing.
I deal with the same thing. It's daily, and it's multiple times.
It's really frustrating, because I do all the booking, and it's just like, I don't know, I live in the middle of nowhere, and I'm trying to make this thing go. And every little tip and hint that I get from friends, I'm meeting people when I go down there, which is great, which is what I need to do. But it is incredibly difficult to get into good venues where, I'll talk to who plays, and the first thing out of the rookie amateur playbook 101, the first question they ask, will your band bring people?
Yeah.
Well, if you're asking that, then chances are your place kind of sucks. That's my view anyway. I mean, people know Social D, and either they're going to come or no, or people won't come because they don't like that venue. But we're doing such a, there's only, I have scoured the internet and I can only find like maybe 5 Social D tributes. Maybe 4 in America. And then there's like, there's one in Italy. There's one in, there's 1 or 2 in Mexico. But they all sing, like Mexico, they sing in Spanish, and Italian, the guys, they sing. It's very strange to hear a non-English speaking band try to sing the songs in English. It's really interesting.
Right.
But that is pretty much it. There is another Social Destruction, but they are spelled DIS-struction. And just so we're very clear, we are not them. I just want to put that out there. We are DE. Gotcha. So, yeah, and we've actually had, because we're complete opposites of the country. Social D's from Orange County, California, and we're up in like northern Vermont.
Yeah,
and we've had a ton of interest from LA, Southern California area. I don't know who actually. Like I said, Chris Reese, the drummer for Social D, has that Pike Bar, and he asked us to play at his place. But it's a matter of, I don't know the logistics, as far as I'm concerned. This is the next best thing to making it big, which I never have done.
Right.
So this is a learning curve for me as well. I've played many, many, many gigs, but we just never have taken it to like a touring level or that sort of a thing. But if we can make it happen, I will. And my drummer is on board for doing that, because he's actually been out there. And in the mid-90s, he actually played the Whiskey, the Troubadour, the Rainbow. He played all those right before he went into the service. So he's actually knows the area, which is super cool, I think. But yeah, it would be nice to make that happen.
Yeah, I've actually had this similar issues. We try with AC/DC, which I'm in a tribute band called For Those About to Rock, and we're down in Virginia. Well, there are about 3 AC/DC tribute bands that we not necessarily compete with, but a few of them have been doing it for a lot longer. And as far as getting venues, there have been 2 in the state of Virginia that we can't get into because they're exclusive to the venue that they play at.
Yep.
And so that just kind of leaves all the other markets that don't really have a big venue for us to play in. And we'll try and tackle those markets because they don't even get those other bands, because those other bands, since they've been doing it for so long, they'll branch out and get the bigger venues, the 600 plus capacity venues. So we're stuck playing some of the smaller venues that maybe don't draw as big of a crowd, or they only have like maybe 2 or 3 gigs per year there, big shows or whatever that they put on.
Right.
So unless we're doing festivals or something, we're pretty much stuck locally. Now, if we want to get, regional or national or East Coast or what have you, then it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack as far as venues that will accommodate us.
I am in your shoes, where I drum also in a AC/DC tribute, and there's just there is one, two, three. There's 5 AC/DC tributes, at least in New England.
Oh, wow.
And actually, I had a bit of a there's a town, there's a really, really great, I mean, these guys are the kings for New England. They've done it for like 30 years, Back in Black, and they are just awesome. And they were kind of the band that I looked up to when I was like, oh, I want to do an AC/DC tribute. You know, those guys are the bar. And I'm finding that it turns out they've been booked like a night before we play, about 5 or 6 miles from where we're playing on. It's like August 19th, and they're playing on the 18th at one town over at a town fair. But like the fair committee, I don't think it really thought that through. I don't know. People up our area, they just don't communicate with each other. They don't pay attention to what each other's doing. So there's 2 AC/DC bands that, like, having an AC/DC band come through is like a once a year kind of thing, you know?
Right.
And no, that's not the case. Now you get a double shot, I guess. But there's enough. I feel our singer for the AC/DC band is down near Boston, and he has 3 AC/DC tributes down there. So I'm like, I'm at the point where I think, you know, we've done that for a couple of years, and it just hasn't branched the way I was hoping it would. And that's okay, because the guys that are all in it all have other things going on. And honestly, I get much more enjoyment out of doing a more niche kind of thing, like Social Destruction.
Right.
And I just have kind of I've drummed for 33 years, and I'm just, I'm rather jaded by a lot of it, because I've dealt with a lot of frontmen who can't get their head through the door because their ego's so big, you know, that kind of a thing.
Right.
And I was just like, you know what? I think I might be able to do this. And I really try not to have that ego with people, because it just, you know, if you're going to do a band, it takes 4 or it takes 5 equal people, you know, and it's not a one-man show. I mean, I'm here alone tonight just because people's work schedules and all that stuff. But I mean, I didn't hide this from anybody or anything like that, you know. But it, yeah.
So my next question goes back to what we were kind of talking about earlier. What do you think it takes to make a great tribute band?
This is where, like I said before the interview, this is where I can feel, I can come across as being standoffish or whatnot, because I don't pull punches. I tell the truth when it comes to this, because this is my life, and it's the only thing that I'm really good at. So I'm a real hard ass with it. Things have to be perfect. They have to be perfect. If you're going to see that band, depending on who it is, but if it's a hard rock band and I see a fucking iPad on stage or a mic or a music stand or any of that stuff, and you're the front man, like, that's an instant, you know. Or if you don't, or if you're running, you know, you're going to see AC/DC and the guy's playing, you know, you gotta have the right sound. You have to have the sound for who you're trying to be, and you have to have the look. And you also have to have the representation, the presence of whatever you're trying to do. And I'm not saying you know, all of that has to be perfect, but the music has to be really close, and what you're trying to do you really gotta put in. There's a difference between, I like to call us honestly a replica band, because there's a bleed through that I've seen for a few years now where you'll get four guys together. Oh, we're such and such a tribute. And there are a bunch of dudes that get together on Friday night, get drunk together on stage and play shitty versions of crappy songs and call themselves a tribute. And that is the farthest thing away from a tribute. I think it hurts the real people who are really putting in the 150%.
Yeah.
As a venue goes, oh, well, these guys played, and, you know, they got $100 or whatever. And it's like, you clearly don't understand what this scale is. And it's really tough in the Social D world, because I see a lot of that kind of a thing. And, you know, they've been around for 40 years, but, you know, they're as big as you could get and still be underground. Really. The last album they did in 2010, 2011, the Hard Times and Nursery Rhymes, that put them on the mainstream, kind of got them a little more mainstream, but really they were like they're the kings of the underground. And, you know, it's hard. That's why I'm playing places that are so far away from us, because there's not the, you know, our cow to human ratio is pretty big. There's not a lot up here.
Right.
And so I have to travel. You know, we have to go to these places. And it's really tough. You go into a venue and they're like, oh, well, we'll give you $5 out of every person that we charge $30 a ticket to. And then you're hoping that people show up, and, you know, the cost and the travel and meals and hotel rooms and just everything. I'm in the mindset of, I have to pay my dues, you know, you have to.
Yeah. So
I'm fine with doing that as long as there's interest. You know, if we play a place and, you know, there's 10 people there the first time, which I expect that, you know, I try to be very real about this, but the next time we go back, I'm hoping there's, you know, maybe 30 to 50 would be good, or 100. Right. You know, I hope the word spreads. But yeah, that's where we're at.
Yeah, I feel that's one of the things that holds us back a little bit. Is I don't know if we're just being too picky when it comes to venues. You know, we've got our stuff together, but at the same time, it's, you know, if it's a one-off show, it's really going to have to be worth our while to make the travel.
Yeah.
If by some chance we've got an opportunity to do a two-nighter in a row, we could pick up one city and drive a couple hours the next day to hit another one.
Yes.
On the way back home. We actually had that arranged last year or the year before last, but one of the venues canceled on us, so we had to cancel the other one because it wasn't worth our time to go all the way to that one venue and come all the way back. It just was not possible.
Yeah.
So I mean, things happen, and, you know, we just try again next time.
Yeah, that's all you can do. Really.
So what do you think is your favorite Social D song to play when you guys play live?
Oh boy. I don't have a favorite. I have a top 5. So if you, which I feel are all equals, they all have a place and a reason. Dear Lover collectively is the band's favorite to play. That one just really, I don't know. I've had a few horrible relationships through my life, and it's just it resonates with me, and it's just a really hard driving, angry song, and it just feels really good to get that out on stage. And it has a really cool, sometimes where we get really lucky, and I have a friend who plays organ, and he will come and play shows with us. Luckily, he was on our new promo video. But so Dear Lover, and one off the Mike Ness solo album, Cheating at Solitaire. It's called Dope Fiend Blues. And that song really, that could be my personal favorite, maybe. I think it's definitely in the top 5, because that is just a creepy, dark song. There was a guy, William H. Burroughs, I think it was in the early 90s, did this Christmas special. I forget the name of it, but it was about a heroin junkie. It was kind of one of those claymation, almost like a Tool video cartoon thing. And it was about, they kind of glorified what it was like to be a junkie, And Mike Ness took great offense to that, because he's been through it all. And I'm one of the very lucky people that I've never had any interest in dabbling with any of that. And but you feel his pain in that song, in it, and it was kind of the anti. He was like, William H. Burroughs, this is how it really is, So that one's really good, but we really try to do a good job with that, because I actually have yet to find a live version of that from any of the Mike Ness band or Social D, any footage on YouTube, anything. I've looked for thousands of videos, and I cannot find a performance where there's an intro with like a funeral organ in that. And our friend that comes to play sits in with us sometimes, and he nailed that. And it just adds such a doom and gloom to the thing. It can really, I think it touches you. It's pretty, I don't want to say it's cool, because it's sad,
right?
But it's very powerful. It is extremely powerful. So there's the two. Of course, there's another great one off White Light, White Heat, White Trash called Crown of Thorns, which is a really good. It's just a good drive-in rock and roll tune, and that just resonates with all of us. And then there's another really good one that I like, and that one hits me because it's called Down Here with the Rest of Us. And I mean, in the end, I'm a tribute band. I'm not Mike Ness in any way, shape, or form. So right. I'm down here with the rest of us. That one's good. And of course, my other favorite one is Ball and Chain. That was like the first. I heard I Was Wrong when I was 16. That came out in 96. So yeah. And for the longest time, Mike Ness and the guy from the band Sponge, they sound very much alike.
Yeah.
And I thought it was the same for a couple of years. Like I thought it was the same. I was just a dumb high school kid. I didn't know. And I thought it was the same person. But I heard that Ball and Chain, and that really, that's just a great, it's kind of a bit of it's almost like a prayer-like song. It's just, but all of these songs are sad. I don't like happy stuff. I just don't. It doesn't do it for me.
Yeah.
And it's honest, it's real, and it's raw, which is how I try to treat this band, with all of three of those things on 100.
Yeah. What's something that you guys do to prepare yourselves for the gig? Like right before you walk out on stage, you do any kind of like, I don't know, take shots, high fives, anything like that?
Oh, I usually find a back alley and have a flask and a joint in my hand. That's the truth.
Catch a little buzz right beforehand.
I don't care. Yeah, sometimes there's a thing that I call aligning the crosshairs. You got to have one with the other, but not too much of either, because you'll just be garbage. It's just it's a mindset,
Right.
And some of the other guys, they're over trying to pig out and hit the food buffet, or if there's catering or any of that stuff. But we really try to focus on the performance, not be wasted or any of that,
right.
Because I've dealt with that way too much with other members in the past, and I just don't need. That's not what this is about.
Right.
But I do like to get focused, if you will.
Right. Gotcha. Have you ever played with any big time national acts at the same gig?
Not as this tribute. I personally got to open for the band Blues Traveler last year.
Oh, right on.
Drumming. I was playing for a singer-songwriter girl, and it just didn't. It's very funny because it was the most anticlimactic gig that I've ever played in my life. Because, I was drumming to kind of help them out and keep them going. It wasn't really not my wheelhouse, just not my wheelhouse. And that's okay. But, my favorite part was, during COVID, when I got laid off and I was getting the $600 a week or whatever. And I, used that money and I bought all new drum equipment, because I was like, well, this will probably be the last drum set I ever need. And I bought one of those Ludwig Centennial kits, which aren't they're not a high end by any means. It's like the highest end Taiwan kit, right? And it had the 26-inch bass drum. And during sound check there, this was sold out, it was a good room. And I played When the Levee Breaks, an Immigrant song for sound check.
Nice.
And that was my favorite part of the night. But it was so anticlimactic because we didn't get to meet any of the band. John Popper came off the bus and walked right onto the stage. And there was a bit of commotion, all this stuff going on. Oh, he's not feeling well, blah, blah. Turned out, fucker had COVID.
Ooh.
And he went on and played anyways. And he's up there doing this harmonica solo.
Yeah.
And he's blowing harmonicas and throwing them out into the friggin' crowd. It's what is going? And the next day we get a notice from the venue saying, oh, this happened. Great. Now everybody has to go and test for that. It was I spent most of the night outside because we played, and then I was outside packing up my stuff, and I missed most of the Blues Traveler set.
Yeah.
So I made out all right, but
right.
That wasn't super cool, but
right.
I guess. But no, we haven't opened for. Not really. No, not yet. I'm hoping, that the bigger tribute festivals and stuff, that's a good time. That's really cool because you play in front of, that one we did. It was what I say, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest. There was Nirvana, Penny Royalty. They played. I heard them mentioned on another one of your episodes.
Yes.
In the Nirvana, they were pretty good. They put on a great show at the end because they just full Nirvana just trash all their shit and leave the stage. I mean, it was good. Legit. And needless to say, there was a GNR tribute and there was a AC/DC tribute on that. So you get people that come to these festivals that might not necessarily have an interest in you or listen to you, but then you play for them. And they're like, oh, well, now I'm a fan. So that's pretty cool. And I think it's a good way to gain more fans.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of stuff promoted on Facebook where it's the venues will take, or the promoter, or whoever's putting the show together, will actually take different bands like Nirvana. And why would you put Nirvana with an AC/DC tribute? But if you think about it, you're grabbing all of these different age groups and putting them into one, so somebody is going to like one or the other,
right?
And it's going to be at the same show. And I think that's something that probably should happen more often as far as combining genres rather than sticking to, I mean, don't get me wrong, the other ones work where you've got like all grunge or you've got all metal. They work, but if you intertwine the two, doesn't have to be grunge or metal. Everybody thinks that grunge killed metal.
We're sort of, in a sense, kind of being pigeonholed a little bit as a punk band, because Social D did start out as a punk band, but they have really progressed over the years to just a straight up, they're like a 70s bar band, just with more attitude. And it's something that, 8 to 80-year-olds can jive with it, because it's not rocket science. It's kind of, I can compare it to AC/DC in a sense where anybody can bang their head to it,
right?
Which I think is a beautiful thing.
What would you say to any up and coming tributes who are thinking about starting a tribute? Any words of wisdom?
What not to do?
Don't do it.
Just if you're gonna do this kind of a thing, give a shit about what you do, and really do it. If you're gonna be the man, and really give it your all, because if not, you come across as kooky and people will see right through you.
Absolutely. And one last question I have, unless there's anything else you care to talk about, is there anything that you want to say to your fans that are watching right now, or any Social D fans?
Well, I mean, a lot of our events and things, I always feel like a dick when I do this, because I will post our videos and I will post, gigs and things on the actual Social Distortion fan page, because that's how you reach these people, and right now it's very unfortunate that Mike Ness has cancer, tonsil cancer. And we really hope he is back in action as soon as he can and feels better. But right now there's kind of a void for them. They were supposed to do a huge summer tour. I had tickets. I mean, everybody in the band was going to go. And now that's not happening. But we're kind of, for Northeast Coast, I'm hoping that we can somehow fill that void a little bit, if you're looking to, get a little Social D action. And, put your phones down, come out to a damn show, and live in the moment of the show. I love, the videos of us and everything, that's great, but really come out and just take it in as you alone, as a human being. Technology has a way of stealing our souls without us knowing it. And music can help combat that if you let yourself in it. And there is nothing, to me and the guys in my band, there's nothing like playing in front of a good sized crowd with the amps on, 10 and just really going for it. So we really strive to be the very best that we can be. And, we want to play for people, and we want them to come and see us and experience it, because real concert tickets now, I mean, to go see, what's it cost to go see AC/DC now? I mean, Social Distortion tickets were like $100 or something like that, 70, 80, I don't know, but they're going up. And like, that whole experience is something that a lot of people can no longer afford. But you can go and see a tribute band for, $20-$30, or you can see multiple tribute bands on a bill for the same price. which I think is, second best in a way, but I don't look at it as that. I look at it as we're paying homage to the greatest punk rock band that I think that there is.
I think that concert you mentioned about AC/DC, they're doing that festival in October with all those bands. Can't even remember all of them now.
The tickets, something like that. I mean,
the
it's crazy.
Tickets are 500 and plus, 500 and more, depending on what package you get. And it's a festival, so it's going to be chaos.
Oh, yeah. I've been to a lot of festivals. I was at Woodstock 99 and I survived.
It's like a 2-day festival, I believe. There's like Metallica's playing one day, and I think AC/DC's on the bill, and I can't remember. Ozzy was on the bill. I think Judas Priest is taking their place now. So there's all these old guys are getting out there and doing this, and I got a feeling that this might be the beginning of the end for AC/DC.
Well, I know that this is like a touchy subject, but some of these old bands are just not what they were. And they're still touring around. And for some of them, it's a pretty sad state of affairs. But it can also be because, they've taken money over the years from record company or whatever, and they're still paying those bastards off, basically.
Could be too, yeah.
So they have no choice. But there's some that's like, man, you really gotta, poor Ozzy, what? I'm lucky that I saw him. He was my first concert, so that's why I'm totally just screwed for life. It was Ozzy, Tool, and Megadeth on an Ozfest at age 17 or 18. I was just like, whoa.
Yeah.
So that changed everything. But yeah, but there's some really cool. I saw an amazing Sabbath tribute called Rat Salad online. I don't know where they're from. Maybe Pennsylvania or New Jersey, possibly. But those guys, that singer, he was kind of a big guy, but he had the Ozzy, he had the eyeliner on, he had long hair, and he's singing. I cannot remember the fucking name of the song, but I was just completely wow. I was like, holy shit. And I watched the whole video, and then I researched them and found some other stuff. Rat Salad is their name. So check, if you like a Sabbath tribute, check those guys out, because
I'll definitely do that.
They were excellent. They were the real deal.
Awesome, man. Well, all the links for Social Destruction will be down in the description box. Make sure you reach out to these guys. Hook them up with a show if you're a venue, or if you are a big Social D fan, reach out to them and let them know. Say, come to my town, come play. Here's this venue.
Private parties are cool. We love motorcycle, hot rod events. I mean, I kind of live that lifestyle, so that's why I like doing this band, so I can be a part of those events too, where we kind of belong in those things. So yeah, we're looking for venues, private parties, club events, anything really. And we're pretty reasonable for pricing and that kind of thing. It all comes down to really travel and what we need to bring for gear,
Right.
But I'm hoping this next year things will really change for us. We've met some good tributes, and we have some other gigs in the works, and it should be pretty good. We are a couple of new places. September 8th is it's in, what is it? I can't even read my own writing. Jesus. Garwood, New Jersey. We're playing a cool little, it's kind of like an old little theater sort of thing with bollocks at a place called Crossroads, which that sounds real interesting. I'm looking forward to that. And Then September 23rd, we're in Portland, Maine at a place called Empire Live. That's a cool old, kind of like a burlesque place, you know, it's a little theater. It's cool.
Right.
And October 1st, we're in New Haven, Connecticut for a Sunday afternoon matinee show. I think that's with Bollocked, and that's at a place called Cafe 9. So it's a little bit of a mixed up. All three of these places, I have not been to any of these, so I'm looking forward. These are all new, and it should be cool. But along with saying that, the lineup that you see, because we live so far away, the lineup that you see on October 1st is not the same lineup that you would see on like September 23rd. I've actually had to put together essentially like 2 full bands to be able to, in order to stay running all the time, because the guy who plays bass in the band, my best friend, Seth Howard, is also the greatest. He will not use the term luthier, but that guy can cut down a tree and build a guitar out of it.
Oh, wow.
And he can fix any, he actually just serviced Sully Erna from Godsmack. He serviced Sully's guitars right before they just left for tour like a month ago.
Nice.
And he's trying, him and I are kind of trying to do some sort of a music store also to help kind of offset this beast. But with that being said, he's like, hey, I kind of need a little break from the band. So we have another friend who plays bass in the AC/DC band with me, and he has agreed to come and do these shows. But we also, our drummer down in Delaware has another friend that plays bass down there. So I essentially can have 2 different bands. There's a guy that plays guitar for us too up here that will do local shows, but they don't want to travel, which I totally get it. And then, you know, Country Bumpkins certainly don't want to play New York City, and I get it, but that's where this is going, you know, it has to. And so we've reached out, and I actually have another guitar player in the works right now who I've never actually met, but I gave him the list. He's a friend of our drummer. He plays in a cover band with our drummer part-time. So our drummer said, hey, this guy's capable. I gave him the set list. Seems like a perfectly cool guy. And I have another entire guitar rig that I keep as a backup or a spare so that we still have the Social D sound, you know, for all occasions. Like I sort of treat this almost kind of like a motorcycle club where you got to hang around and you have to have the right. You can't get into a club like that on a Yamaha bike. You got to have a Harley. You know what I mean? You got to have the right parts and pieces, specific.
Absolutely.
And so not to be a bully or anything like that, but I'm like, hey, I have this guitar and I have this amp, and when you play shows with us, just use this because that's what it calls for. And I just want to make sure that we give 150% in a live setting at a venue at a show. So there's that. And my rig is, I think this is worth noting because I have yet to see a Social Distortion band. The whole key to doing this band is the sound, like I've said, but it requires a recipe of many components to actually get the Mike Ness tone, the guitar sound, because it's something that you can't get with a modeler amp. You actually have to have, the amp over this shoulder right here in the background. I've had that specially modified, and it's a very, very hidden secret about exactly what Mike had done to that amplifier. And coincidentally, I met a friend via Facebook, randomly, some dude out in Utah who I've become friends with. And he found through somebody a recipe of parts and pieces internally that go to that amp that would give it that sound. And you try to research it, it's just really hidden and it's not talked about. So I went out on a whim and I took the recipe up to our local, I say local, but he's like an hour and 45 minutes away, our tube amp guy in Burlington. And I sent him this little message from Messenger that had all these parts and pieces listed on. I said, does this make sense to you? Could you do this to my amplifier? And he looked at it, and like a second later, he replied, and he was like, oh, yeah, that's all easy shit. No problem. I brought it up to him, and because, this is a big myth or whatever, big secret, and he banged that thing out in a day, and I went and picked it up and brought it home and plugged it in, and viola, that was there is no mistaking it is that sound. And you gotta have the right guitar to go with it. I actually have, it is ultra rare. Let me see here. This is my very own 1976 Gibson Les Paul Deluxe Gold Top, which Mike Ness had a signature model made by Gibson that are $9,000. And I got this for, 3 years ago before the big Gibson value explosion happened. I got this for about a third of that cost.
Wow.
And lo and behold, my Facebook buddy out in Utah, who gave me the recipe to the amplifier, sent me a ad off Reverb so Mike Ness, before they go on tour, he has a friend, his hometown tech named AJ Pete in Santa Ana, California, services all of his guitars, gets them ready for tour, and he changes out the pickups. So he had a ad on Reverb for a bridge pickup, which is the important one, that came out of one of Mike's 3 gold tops that he plays and tours and records with, that he constantly uses. So I got a hold of AJP and said, what's the deal with this? He goes, oh, I just pulled these out and I'm selling them for him. He likes to just have fresh, because that guy sweats like crazy on stage. And he's always just he's one of the sweatiest humans I've ever seen. So things do get rusty and can crap out on you on long tours. So I think just as a safety measure, he does that. And I was able to purchase that. So it came directly out of one of Mike's guitars. And that is a huge, the guitar is key because it's an unusual, it's a Les Paul, but those don't normally have a maple neck. They're usually mahogany wood all the way through. So there's many components that go to, and not even his new signature models. Those don't even have everything that mine does. So I have really put them under the microscope and done my research as thoroughly possible as I possibly can. And I have yet to see any other tribute acts that go to this extent. And I'm not blowing my horn or anything like that, but you can hear it is legit. It is absolutely legit. And it sounds, the louder you play it, the better it sounds.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah,
I think it's pretty awesome.
That's pretty dedicated.
Just because I'm a Social D geek. But I'm very lucky. I've been in the right places at the right times through a bunch of years, and things have fallen into place in that aspect. But if you really care about it enough, you can make it happen. I think anybody can.
Absolutely. I definitely want to talk to you for a quick second off camera, but I'd like to thank you, Dan, for being on that tribute band show. Social Destruction. Go check them out online. All the links will be in the description down below. Take care and say hello to the rest of the guys for me.
I will do. Thank you, Eddie.
And we will see you on the next episode of That Tribute Band Show. Take care.